Credit cards are evil, bad, just because a lot of us have credit card debt. I think it's all about understanding and managing your credit cards. If you're one person that just cannot seem to manage, does not have the ability to budget, are not caring for what you're spending and what's coming in and what's coming out, credit cards are not for you. You need to stay away from credit cards. You need to, like Dave Ramsey said, you need to cut them up and stash them somewhere and never. Hey, you went back to the channel. And what I really want to talk about is, if you see my channel lately, talking about finances here and personal finances and what we want to accomplish eventually, hopefully. Obviously, you want to have hope, faith. So just because we start off with nothing, if you're just starting out of college, you're starting off obviously with no money in the bank. There's hope, there's faith. Everything can change. Nothing is permanent. That's one message. Don't forget. We've all been there. We've all gone through that. Those moments where you just have nothing to eat. As far as like ramen noodles. I remember being a college student. Ramen noodles was my lunch and dinner. Just for me to kind of save because I didn't want to spend my rent money. But at the end of the day, wherever you are right now does not mean you're there forever. So just a little side note from that. But I really want to jump on real quick and talk about credit cards. We are living in a society where a lot of us have a lot of massive debt, and that's kind of easy to see, understand. It's not something that we don't know about, but I do believe I've been on both sides of the spectrum. When credit cards have not been my friend. Credit card was a hefty price I had to pay by being broke. So credit cards was what I used to sustain me when I didn't have anything to pay my bills with. And so I don't really advocate for credit cards at one point, but I think personally, this is why I think wealth is one of the momentum for any person in the society, because when you're able to understand the game and kind of have the means to master it in a sense and make it work for your advantage, things don't have just one meaning, right? That goes for anything in life, right? So I'm gonna sit here and say, credit cards are evil, bad, just because a lot of us have credit card debt. All about understanding and managing your credit cards. If you're one person that just cannot seem to manage, does not have the ability to budget, are not caring for what you're spending and what's coming in and what's coming out, credit cards are not for you. Away from credit cards. You need to, like Dave Ramsey said, you need to cut them up and stash them somewhere and never see them again. Cash only, baby. Cash, cash, cash. Serious. If you're not able to believe in yourself that you can handle credit cards, then cash is perfect. Cash is the only way. Myself, I love cash. Still use cash because cash is kind of like a limit on yourself to how much you can spend every month. And once you spend that cash, you don't spend anymore. And for a lot of individuals, I know for myself, that is what I use for the last, I would say a year and a half to 2 years, where I just took out a certain amount of cash, and that is what I used. And after that, everything after that was either saved or invested, and I wasn't trying to spend it. I've been kind of learning how credit cards have been, in a way, have a lot of advantages to it. And for me, credit cards is a game you play, but you gotta be careful, right? You can get burned if you do it wrong, but you can also reap massive benefits if you do it right. And it's all about self-discipline, right? Understanding that just because it's in a credit card doesn't mean you max out your limit. If you have a limit of a certain amount of money, it doesn't mean you max it out. You use it to your advantage. You use it as much as if you was to have cash. And being careful not to overextend yourself and not being able to pay back. The most, I think, one of the most commonly and cliched statements about credit cards is paid off every single month. And if you cannot pay off that balance every single month, then you're going over your means, right? You're living above your means. So paying off your card every month and understanding what you're getting yourself into could be a benefit to you. Some credit cards offers great benefits. One of the things that I kind of see with credit cards is that they have a lot of, in a sense, they have warranties for things that you otherwise wouldn't have had. Some credit cards give you extended warranties without you have to pay for certain products you might buy, and that includes cell phones or like laptops or whatever it may be. And that's a great benefit because some warranties you have to pay for, and they're not cheap. So at least it saves you money at that end. Some cashback rewards. Some of the credit cards that I use have points, and these credit cards pay you for using their services. Understand this. Credit cards are basically a merchant services, right? They're basically a third party between you and the person or the company you're buying from. And they charge the seller a certain small fee for the transaction. And so that's why if you notice, if you go to, especially if you live like me in urban communities, minority communities, a lot of businesses might not take credit cards. They only take cash because they don't want to go through the hassle of, sometimes also they don't want to report, but also they don't want to have to pay, it's that $10 that you paid, they don't keep those $10. They might keep 8, and they'll rather not go through that, and then they got to pay taxes. So they're like, you know what, cash is better. They don't have to worry about dealing with vendors or merchant services and paying all these fees, that they'll just use cash. But obviously nowadays, I think I would say 90% of businesses have credit cards, or they accept credit cards because it's just convenient. Everybody has it. We all have it. Most people have it. Or debit cards. Very rarely do us millennials use a lot of cash. Most of us use our cards, and that's just from my experience what I noticed. So we've slowly but surely have gone accustomed to basically going cashless when it comes to like outside purchases. And the credit cards have been upgrading themselves with us. Like they've been giving us more rewards, more benefits, more cash back. So I think that credit cards, not only do they build your credit, we need to learn how to use them, because as far as building wealth, credit cards are our credit, as it's called, credit report. They give us that credit worthiness if you ever want to buy yourself some type of properties, or even take out some loans on trying to invest on something, whether it's a business, whether it's a property, whether it's a rental property too. So our credit is very important. We can't forget that. So for me, I think I want to make a video about credit cards because don't negate them completely, right? Don't say that credit cards are no good. You shouldn't be using credit cards. I've read a couple of books and some gurus that they were saying credit cards are no good, and you shouldn't see credit cards, and you shouldn't use the credit cards ever. But I think for the average, especially individuals that grew up in minority communities and don't have access to wealth, some of us need credit to start things, whether it's a business, whether it's, like I said, buying your first home. Your credit is going to play a lot into your terms, interest rates, and just an overall like qualifications. It's kind of, I know it sucks because we don't want to be looked at by our credit, but most of these lenders are looking at you just in your credit. They say they don't, and then obviously your income. But most of the time, if you have high income but horrible credit, you still won't get approved. And that's, I've dealt with that. I worked in banks. I saw it with my own eyes. Your credit is kind of the equalizer, not kind of, it is, when it comes to lending you large amounts of money. You have a great credit, or a great credit score, your possibilities and opportunities are endless. You have a lot more opportunities at your display, and don't ever underestimate that. And I seen that, like I said, with my own eyes. But at the same time, you don't want to overextend yourself, like I said, live above your means. And I think it's a balance because credit cards, um, it's very easy. Like I said, they say over like 50% of Americans do not know how much credit card debt they have. Like they underestimate how much they owe, and it's because it's so easy for us to get lost in those balances. If you're not diligent with your finances, then credit cards might not be for you. Hard for me to say because I know credit scores are so important, but I'd rather see you um, not have a credit, at least a great credit score, but have no stress as far as owing tens and tens of thousands of dollars for these credit companies, and really having a stressful situation because you wanted to build a credit score. So it's kind of like it's a tricky subject. I just really want to talk about it. There's no right or wrong. I think like there's no way that you can say you don't use it and then don't use it all the way, but understand that the game is a dangerous game. Don't stay on top of it. You don't stay diligent with it. You can get lost in the sauce, as they say, right? And get tricky and really go into the rabbit hole of debt. We want to stay away as much as we can from it. Obviously, bad debt. We know that bad debt is not good. If you've been watching this channel, from Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says, a lot of us are in bad debt, and there's a bad debt and good debt, and credit cards is not good debt. And there's a lot of individuals that say there it is and they use it certain ways. That's great, but for the most average person, the credit cards are not good debt. But learning how to use the credit cards and paying it off every month, it becomes a different story. It actually helps you. So like anything in life, some things have black and white, right? Some things are good for a certain amount and then bad for certain things. So it's the same thing with credit cards. If you don't know what you're doing with it and you're extending yourself and you're just going on shopping sprees and you're buying PS5s and 75-inch TVs on your credit cards, then maybe no, credit cards are not for you. Are learning yourself and learning the game and disciplining yourself and knowing what you're using for and how to pay it off, and you're going to be able to pay this back off every single month. Yeah, take advantage of the points, the rewards, the cash back, the massive rewards that certain cards gives you, because why not? It's your money. You're spending it, so you might as well get rewards for it. But also, tricky thing here is that they do say that apparently we as consumers, we spend a little bit more when we have credit cards as opposed to cash. Research says and studies say that when you use credit cards, you tend to spend more than when you use cash. So be careful with that. Don't let that be you. Don't let that take you to another level and you go into massive debt. Let's not do that. We're not here for that. But let's learn how to use credit cards to advantage. It's not evil. Learning how to do it, how to use it, could be a great, I would say, great master of the game, mastering your credit cards, right? Understanding it and reaping the rewards of it, and becoming a little bit more educated with them. Let's again do yourself a favor. Look at your credit card interest rates. Look at your balances, budget. Understand what you got to pay first, and try to, if you can, try to eliminate carrying balances on your credit cards. That's probably one of the ways to not create wealth. I think one of the biggest no's, right? Even Warren Buffett says, if you're coming right now to some stimulus money some stimulus money, or you're coming into some type of big money, and they ask him, what would you do with the money? He says, if you have any type of credit card debt or loans that have high interest rates, get rid of those as soon as possible, because if you're trying to invest with carrying an 18% interest on your credit card, the chances of you making 80% of your investments are not impossible, but you're kind of playing the Russian roulette, because you're kind of waiting for that investment to become 80% and you're carrying around 80%, which is not going to be a good return on investments. So whatever you do, you're always going to have higher interest rate in your credit card debt. So you want to pay that off first before you invest. And if you're on my channel here, I'm just going with the basics. Before we invest, save. Before we invest, pay off our credit cards. Just simple. If we can do that, everything else becomes a lot easier. But of course, don't use credit cards to your advantage. I know a lot of individuals that I see that are just maxing out these great rewards on these credit cards, and maybe if we use them the right way, we can use them into advantage. So let's not knock them off. Let's not say they're evil, but don't get into massive debt. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.